intentions and distractions. I mostly, my intention is to hopefully be able to rely more on Bear and Isaac in this call to drive things, because my distraction is that I'm working like crazy today to try to write and finalize by tomorrow a pretty big proposal for the joint TC and TEA academy operations. So that's my big distraction. Also, they're doing a bunch of construction outside, so sometimes it may get loud today. I will pass it to you, Nate.
Yeah, my intention is just to go through this agenda today and help where I can and stay up to date on whatever everybody's at. My distraction is I'm traveling today and I have my baby on my hip, so it's just juggling a lot of things right now. So that's my distraction. I'll pass it over to Marathon Mind.
My intention is to catch up on the agenda and especially on the SP and TA grants, and like Bear said, we've been redirected, and I'll be able to share an update on that. I'll pass it over to Joseph.
Yeah, my intention is just to get up to date with regards to comms with regards to the grant initiative that we got going on, and then update everyone with like the shift in direction with regards to like roles and stuff like that, and also just update everyone with regards to like what I've been kind of working on recently. And I don't have any distraction. Actually, I have one distraction. I've got apple pie in the oven, which I'm going to quickly run and get before the meeting officially starts. So yeah, that's it. I'll probably pass it on to Juan.
I just got into the call, but it's checking. I just came from the Giveth server, and they were doing a cool PFP collection of NFTs. So nothing. It's really cool to see how other communities are moving and learning from them also to bring all that here. I'm happy to see all of you. I'll pass it to Nate. Did you go?
Yeah, the only person who hasn't gone yet is Bear. Very good.
Bear.
Yeah, thank you. I can take it. Yeah, so intentions. Go through the agenda items. Kind of like hear the updates from everyone. Isaac is also going to provide an update on the status of this like migration to Notion from Clarity. So I think that's going to be good for everyone to see like where are we heading and kind of like imagining how are we going to start working on Notion. And also probably what my biggest intention for the call is to be able to go through the March budget and go through the project funding allocation percentages for this month, trying to bring more clarity as the end of the month it's getting closer and compensation payments will be sent. I still feel that there's some uncertainty in the allocation for funds into the different projects that we have currently active. So that's what I like to. That's kind of like my main intention. Distractions. I'm a little hungry, so I might just go grab something to eat. But that's basically all for me. I'll pass it back to you, Gideon.
Okay, thanks, Bear. So let's do just a quick round of updates. I think I mentioned this at the outset, but not everybody was here. I am working right now on basically a joint operating budget for the Academy and the TEC Coordination Team. It's coming together nicely, but it's a ton of work, and it's very taxing work. Just a lot of uncertainties and things that we're working through in real time. So it's challenging, but the good news is that I think this is going to be so great for the Commons. and I just am seeing all this really cool synergy that's coming out of this. So that's exciting. So Isaac is not here yet. I can give just a quick update on grants. Actually, let's skip that because he's going to go into a lot of detail later. Maybe Nate, do you want to? I can do the conviction voting update, but why don't you do it?
Yeah, sure. I think that the conviction voting, we're going to kind of setting a firm date of April 20th to shut off conviction voting. Basically, this kind of puts into perspective of like kind of a transparent action to let everybody know this is the date that it's closed off. If it shuts off before your proposal passes, it will be stuck in conviction voting, and you'll have to resort to tally voting. But this just kind of is a transparent way for everybody to understand that if they have a proposal that they want to put through CV, they need to do it very quickly. We're going to give it a couple days before and make sure that we, confirm with the bonding curve team that that's everything that they want to do, and help them get through this last proposal that we kind of are sponsoring a little bit. And then moving on from there, we will post that within the thread and move on from conviction voting altogether. I still have some reservations on the method, something that I really would need to talk with Sim about, but yes, we're moving towards that direction. So outside of that, focusing on the curation service right now and making sure that we kind of have a standard across the board of how we interact with the curation service based on past experience and working with the Common Sense team to do that. Outside of that, the SPI is just slowly moving forward. I'm going to try to onboard the bonding curve research group as well as the stakeholder research group if they're interested to kind of participate in the curation service and other aspects of the SPI. So yeah, I'll pass it over to Bear.
Yeah, thank you, Nate. Yeah, I can give a quick update because I'm gonna go into more detail for the project funding allocations and also in terms of the synergies between the different projects that we currently have. But a quick update is that in terms of the role self-review tools, I'm still gathering like all the information, all the inputs from everyone, and I'm hoping to have some sort of report with the different suggested changes from people that they would like to do, so we have something more clear that we could present and maybe talk through in a call, thinking on April, and if those changes are gonna require any action, especially in terms of the accountabilities and in terms of the time invested for each of the roles. So that's that. We're also working on this kind of like calendarization or scheduling of the different activities, critical activities that we need to work on every month. We're working on that with Isaac and Gideon. So hopefully in the coming days or weeks, we'll have something more strong to share and to start using, right? Right now it's still a little bit unclear still. So yeah, that's kind of that. And then yeah, for the rest we can go into more detail a little bit later, as well as for the Notion update that Isaac is going to provide as well. So having said that, I wanted to say that maybe instead of having here the content creation and the Commons project as quick updates, maybe we could just like move them a little bit later, so we can go into a little more detail if it's needed for Joseph and Marathon Mind to present that. I feel that'd be probably worth it. Yeah, and if that's the case, maybe I pass it to Isaac to provide an update on the grants program.
You hear me, guys?
Yeah.
Okay, so updates, right?
Yeah, you can just do a quick one since you're going to be going into some more detail later.
Yeah, well, nothing, not like we don't have like I don't have like a huge update more than anything. We heard from the Gitcoin team this week, and they sent a bunch of information on how to run the grants round and some other details that we are going to go through later. So, yeah, that's it. Back to you, Gideon.
Okay, thanks, Isaac. So this next item is basically an update on what's going on with the joint operating budget. You know, I think it's not going to make sense to go into all the details of this on this call. What I would say is that the, the the overall pitch is basically around economic integration and around economic sustainability and around starting to build revenue streams and token utility. So it's basically a pitch that says the best way for both entities to sustain themselves over time is to come together. But also, it's not just a question of economic sustainability, it's also about being able to fulfill the mission. And so it then goes into like the different ways that we are going to be growing income and token utility for the commons. And then it talks a little bit about, so these are the priorities here. I'll run through these real quick. In some cases you'll notice, hey, we're not talking about certain things. It's just because these are very high level. So deepen the TEA and TC integration as a path to developing revenues and token-based value flows to build TC utility. Run the token engineering focused Gitcoin quadratic funding matching fund round. Well, that's a mouthful. With a new TC grants program, integrate NFT-based proofs as a vital community asset and a critical gauge of expertise and accomplishments in the field, and then strengthen processes for scalable, accountable community engagement. And it talks about the different revenue and utility, about fundraising, and then it closes the kind of the main part of it with the vision and how that's one of the things we're going to be building. And just so that the SPI team crew doesn't feel left out, this is kind of where we're baking in this part here about curation. I'm not going into a lot of details about SPI. I'm pitching this more as like kind of a cool AI skunkworks that is built off of curation as kind of the cornerstone. Then I won't go into all the rest of this. These are kind of more traditional proposal elements. But what I would ask is that if you, this is going to be on a super tight turnaround. We basically have to have, ideally, we would have this posted up on the forum by Saturday morning. But it may be that it's Monday morning that we get it posted up there. But what I would say is if anybody is interested in reviewing this, providing feedback before this goes up, please let me know, and I'm happy to send the draft to you. So if you are, why don't you just flash your flash an emoji right now, Joseph. Okay. I can, yeah, I'll just, I'll put a link either I'll just send it to Joseph, or I can put a link in the coordination channel too.
Gideon,
Yeah.
sorry, I just wanted to share an idea that I got, and is that I've been seeing that the Giveth community is doing really, really good in their participation in grants, and maybe I know there's a call on Mondays at 11 a.m. that they are doing on the Give economy, and maybe it would be good for some of us to participate, because there you're gonna find out of so many like applications. And yeah, I think that that would be something really cool to do in this group.
Yeah, thanks, Juan. Yeah, you know, one of the offers we've gotten from Griff is to actually rely on, they have like a fundraising team to do grants. And so at least in the short term, while we're ramping up, maybe just rely on them to write some of the grants in, you know, with us. So that's an offer that, yeah, we may just take them up on. So yeah, thank you. That's good. Okay, so that's it for me. I will pass it over to you, Isaac.
Cool, thanks. Before we before we start with the grants program, just a quick note that I forgot to mention on the updates. I met with Griff this morning, and he showed me how to make proposals using the EVM executors, kind of the interface of EVM CRISPR on the gardens. It's pretty easy and everything. I don't think it's particularly useful to go through that today, but just so that, I guess, just to keep everyone posted on that. Cool.
Hey, Isaac, one thing before you go on, speaking of that, are you going to be able to get the grant program proposal up for vote today?
We can speak more about that later. I don't know if it's worth maybe just waiting for the test one to pass just to check if everything is okay.
Okay.
We can check later.
Okay. What I'm realizing is that the timing is getting a little bit tight. So, but yeah, okay.
Yeah, let's chat about that later.
Okay.
Okay, so the grants program. I think pretty much everyone here in the call knows overall what's happening with the grants program. If not, please feel free to interrupt me and ask questions or whatever. We got a message from the Gitcoin team this week with a bunch of information, with a bunch of resources on how how to run the rounds. Which things do we have to look for? I don't know what can we expect from their side, and they also shared like some helpful resources, like a marketing handbook that I shared on the communications channel and all of that. I have yet to digest and sort of make sense of all the information, because it was quite a bit of links to look for. But here I have a few bullet points with some important stuff that I think is going to be that's worth discussing right now. So just a quick overview. First, we have to. It's worth talking about parameters of the round itself. So the matching pool amount, we know it's 25K in total. That's not we got that I guess fixed yet, right? The token is going to be TEC, or at least we hope to. It's 90% plus certain that it's going to be TEC. Some things that we have to talk about is the matching pool cap per grant. Like maybe we don't want more than maybe we don't want a single project to take 10% of the whole matching pool, or 20, whatever it is. That's something we are going to talk about today. The name of the round, we can discuss about it, but we've kind of been going with the Token Engineering Grants Program name, so maybe we keep it at that. I'll open the floor in a second. And then just last week, we gathered some interest in some of the, I guess, positions or needs for the round. So, but maybe it's worth spending just a second to see if interests have changed and make sure that we have all bases covered. There's a few other things, but as far as parameters and some other options we have to choose from. That's it. I don't know if there's any question or if I wasn't clear or anything.
Just a question, like in terms of the parameters, probably another one that we could include would be like timeline, just to have that really present. How long is it going to take? When does it start? When does it end? You know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, true. Because we are kind of timing the same dates as Gitcoin, but I don't think we have to strictly be on the exact same dates. So we have some flexibility there if we want to move anything. Okay, so let's start one by one. Matching cap per grant. Have in mind that there's going to be 25K, and in the spreadsheet that let me share screen or let me put it in the agenda and share screen 1 second. Put it up here, okay. Yeah, let me share screen now. Have in mind that in that spreadsheet that I'm sharing, we have just about 8 projects or something like that. So if we were to split the 25K equally between all of them, that would be about 3,000 per project. But we know that it's likely that some projects are going to take are going to have more donations and all of that. How in general, how does people feel about putting a cap, or if anyone has a number in mind?
Is the cap tied to, yeah, is the cap based on like a specific criteria, or we just like putting a cap just to put a cap's sake, if that kind of makes sense?
Yeah. Maybe we can include a criteria. I would try not to complicate it too much because we don't know yet enough about the protocol itself. But in general, what they said is just to be careful that not a single project takes too much of the matching pool. If we want, it's an optional parameter. We don't need to put a cap.
Then
Mm. So what are these parameters do? Sorry? What do these parameters do? I feel like if we're going to set the matching cap, it really kind of depends on how many proposals that we see enter into the pool. I don't know if there's like a date when these parameters are due, or if we can do that after we have submissions. Just kind of gauge. That's a good question. I'm not sure if we can do that after. So I'm going to ask, but we probably should have some number more or less by the beginning of the round.
so then if there's no criteria for at the moment, then I'll say everything should primarily be equal, just to be fair. So if there's 8, then you divide, the 8 by the 25K, and then everyone should just get an equal share, because obviously we don't know how big or small certain grants are compared to others. So because we don't know that much information on them, then for the meanwhile, we should just make everything equal, if that makes sense.
Well, something I've seen on Gitcoin rounds, particularly, is that the big round usually has like a small cap. I think around 5 to 10%, and well, it's still a lot of money, right? It's the main round, but side rounds usually have somewhere around 20% of the cap. I think it's important that we do have a cap, just because like for example, I get the impression that the academy is going to get a lot of donations, which is good. And the academy is, I guess, a social project, we could say. Like they engage a lot of people. Now, would it be fair for the other projects if the academy took 50% of the matching pool or even more? So at which point do we interfere and say, hey, not any single project can take more than 30% of the matching pool?
I think we it's hard to say because we don't know much about the projects at hand. So it's like guessing at this point. But I would say like I think no project should take more than like 30% of the whole pool itself. Just for it to be kind of fair. If that makes sense.
And what happens if we set a cap and there's maybe 2 or 3 proposals total? I mean, where it would naturally we'd have money left over.
Well, I think we can. I don't think we're going to get so little proposals. Probably, okay. Just to not spend too much time on this. Let's agree on a number. On a number, I don't know, close to 30 or 20, just to have a number. And then when I ask them about how or the time where that parameters are sort of embedded into the round, we can decide if we can do it later, then we do it later. But if we cannot, we have to choose some option anyways.
Yeah, I would say if we had to make a decision based on limited information that we have, we'd choose a higher number, like 60%, somewhere around there, just because I think with a higher cap, it kind of incentivizes more people to propose anyways. So I don't know. I would say higher, but that's just my opinion.
I think the other thing that's important to note is that there may be, like the TEA may submit several grant proposals, coming through different study groups, or like there's a scholarship fund and things like that. So that's just another, there's not much we can do to prevent that. I think it has to be by grant.
I want to ask if Gravity can participate. We are close to our launch, and if it's possible, we would like to participate.
I think one of the things we're gonna have to this round is gonna have to be very, very closely focused. I mean, all of these are going to be really focused on token engineering in like a pretty tight sense. So, I guess if you have like a really strong case for like why it's specific to token engineering, then I think that yeah.
Anyways, I think we don't have yet like all the criteria down. So let's just keep the conversation, and if anything, we'll let you know. And also, I think we are also in the position to have some information to be able to help Clarity and other projects get into other rounds that are going to be played at the same time. Cool. Cool. So Nate said 50. Haney said 30. Are we feeling somewhere in the middle?
If I were to throw out a number, I'd say like 30.
Just one more question, right? With regards to what Gideon said, with regards to like the TEA submitting multiple proposals, will that come under the umbrella of the TEA, or would that be actually specific individual proposals? So it will be like one for the Token Academy scholarship, and then there'll be another one like Token Academy, programs or whatever the case is.
That's.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that's also a good question, because I think we have to be careful with that. Not to set, I guess, sort of like civil protection for the route itself. Like, if it goes down to that, probably every single project could split their grant into multiple parts. So that's something we have to work on with Angela and ourselves in general, to provide some protection against those things.
The only reason why I asked just so that this will be my final point is. But the only reason why I ask is if that's the case, if basically the TEA is going to have one big proposal, then they're going to split that amongst the many proposals, then I would lean more to it being a higher percentage, being 60 or 70%, because then one proposal can then take and then share amongst the many proposals that they have. But if it's an individual proposal, regardless of if it's coming from the same source or organization or group of people, then I would make it a lower percentage, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. Okay, is there anything else? If not, I think it's probably better to go to the next topic. We already got like a temperature check of how people feel about the CAP, and so I can put up something for next week and see if that works. Yeah, Martha, mind?
Yeah, I'll just give a number. I think 50%, given that there are less participants. That's the only thought.
Okay, cool. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. Name of the round. For now, the name we had in mind was Talk Engineering Grants Program. Very basic, very to the point, and it's Talk Engineering. Does anyone can think of a better name? Any other ideas, or if not, just if you like Talk Engineering Grants Program, you can just I don't know, put a thumbs up on the emoji or something.
I have a quick question. What do we know what the other rounds in the past have been called? Like, I'm just trying to look for conventions because it would be good to kind of follow the existing conventions.
So they've had the open source software round, the Ethereum ecosystem round, Ethereum infrastructure, I think it is round, ecosystem, and they've had like education rounds, inclusion rounds. It's usually like if the round is for open source, it's named open source.
Yeah, I just been talking about like the actual name of it. Like, do they call it grant round or grant program? I think it's just worth looking at those, what people name it.
Martha, mind, go ahead. I'll answer later.
Yeah. Why don't we have it token engineering small grants program, because we're going to be having upgrades of the, funding. I mean, like the next round will be different, a bigger pool. So can we keep like if we have version 1 or 2, like can we call it small and something like that?
I'm not like super against calling it small grants, but I think there's the potential to over time have these be decently big. So I'm kind of leaning towards just not naming it either big grants program or small grants program, just the grants program. And about the name of the program, so at least Gitcoin was the grants program, which was made up of grants rounds, and each grant round had multiple rounds. Some of them were ecosystem rounds, some of them were infrastructure rounds and things like that. And for example, ecosystem rounds were probably education and things like that. Infrastructure were more like software and Ethereum specific infrastructure.
Yeah, and I wouldn't necessarily call 25K small grants round. Like it's still a good chunk of money. Like, I don't know. I think the conventions around what small grants are kind of lower amount, even below 25. Yeah.
I also just got a little bit confused. Are we then naming the program or the round, or are they gonna both have the same name, or how is that?
I mean, we can have multiple names, but that's a good question. We can have multiple names, but for now, I was thinking that probably using the same name was best. So like Token Engineering Grants Program divided into Token Engineering Grants Round 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever it is.
Makes sense, yeah.
Okay, anything else? Is it good? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so we are going to stick with T transparent for now. And last thing about parameters and all this is then team, the team of the round. So I'm not sure if what's there is like because that's exactly the message Connor sent me from the Gitpin team. I'm not 100% sure if those are all the roles I guess we need, but that's what we have for now. So we need to deploy the round, we need to apply and review and approve grants, and we need to handle disputes or anything that may come up during the reviewing process. We need to pay out. We need to make communications and things like that. For now, from what I remember last week, I heard some interest from Joseph in Marathon Mind for communications. Well, let me see because I have that we're here. So it was communications, Marathon Mind, project outreach, Nate, Marathon Mind, Joseph, and Gideon. Documentation, Nate, and I think also Joseph. I don't remember. And then grant review and all the review process, Nate and Joseph. I guess this is something that we can do together, anyways, if need be. But it would be great to have just just check if you guys are feeling the same about taking into that work, and to see if anyone else wants to plug in or be in the loop.
Yeah, I think there's some good conversations to have around the criteria for submissions, because as Wonka noted with his desire to apply as well, we have to have kind of this clear criteria for what is needed to be considered a token engineering product, and defining that and making sure that it's clear and make sure everybody knows and it's well articulated before the fact. And so when we do have the review process, it's kind of more black and white than subjective.
Yeah, I think we probably and I'm asking about interest, because I'm thinking after this call, I'm probably going to send out a calendar to start having meetings just for the grants program to be able to talk about these things.
So Isaac, one thing that I would add is that particularly with something like the criteria, I think this is important, but there may be some other places where it's going to make sense to open this to get feedback on the Tuesday calls, where we have a slightly bigger pool of people with maybe some additional context, but particularly around the criteria one. I think that'll be really important to get. To get Griff's perspective, Tam, Livia, Angela. That would be, I think, really useful.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. Are we good with the team? Like, okay, or should we pass into to the next topic?
I'd be willing to help out with the payouts if that's necessary. That's something I could take on.
Sorry. Cool. Thanks. Let me put that down. Oops, sorry. Cool. Okay. So I'll probably between today and tomorrow, I'll try to schedule the calendar and send all the information that's necessary for everyone to start thinking thoroughly about all of these. Cool. So next topic, the marketing plan overview. We're going to take just a few minutes for this. So the Gitcoin team, I'm going to share my screen again. The Gitcoin team sent a really nice handbook with marketing strategies, which is actually way more complete than what Gideon and I talked about. So 1 second to share screen. Okay, can you see it?
Yeah.
Cool. So it's actually divided into three phases. Pre-round, they have about 4 weeks just for the pre-round promotion. In round, which is during the duration of the round, and then post-round, where they share some information about, kind of a retrospective of the round and how it went. It's very complete. I don't think we have the capacity, to do all of these. But I thought it was probably worth just having some conversations and brainstorming around marketing. I know, Joseph, you did check these documents, so probably let's see what you think about it.
Yeah, I think it's a very detailed and comprehensive document and a way to kind of strategize, um, promoting, talking about, uh, getting more eyes on like the rounds and things like that. So one thing that I found very, very like interesting is their use of the use of like Twitter Spaces in order to get all of the they use the Twitter Spaces in getting everyone that's applied to like a grantee to kind of speak about the proposal. Therefore, it will help us it will help us brand wise as well with regards to being like the hub of like token engineering and getting more eyes on us, and we can then like promote other things that we're kind of doing or that we want to promote at the end, like as kind of like a call to action, so to speak, whether it's like join our Discord, whether it's like, oh yeah, we've got we've got the Shannon Point like reputation thing going on a Monday, and also even if it was to just engage and get more followers and get feedback from the community and stuff like that. So I found that very interesting and quite useful. Also, I think if you scroll, wait, hold on. Oh yeah, and then also with regards to them actually coming up with like basically like like the different phases, so to speak, like phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, with regards to having a review, having a review phase to see like what like a recap, what went right, what went wrong, highlights, and what could be done better with regards to, let's say, whether it's marketing or whether it's updating the grantors, because sometimes it's not sometimes it's forgotten to kind of provide context with regards to who are the actual people that are providing the money in the pool and stuff like that, and it gives us the opportunity to do a bit of storytelling, to kind of give our DAO a bit more a deeper meaning, and seem to have a bit more of a purpose than, oh yeah, we just hand that money to whoever kind of asks for it. That kind of makes sense. So I definitely think it was a very good comprehensive guideline to how it should be kind of marketed.
Yeah, I agree. I have one very particular question for everyone here. Because okay, they have this handbook which is very useful, but at least the phase 1 is probably a best fit for them, I guess, or for people that are used to run rounds or things like that. And I guess what I'm trying to come out is, with us not knowing the whole process and still having some unknowns, how do we go about marketing, and how when do we start? Because technically we could even post some information today and things like that. But it's like the balance. We aren't going to be able to nail everything down in time, but we cannot also afford to wait too much to start promoting the run. So thoughts about that?
So I have one thought on that. When we post the proposal for voting on this, we should tweet it out and definitely use that as a way to get token holders to vote. And also, it's kind of cool because by doing that publicly on Twitter, we're kind of pre-announcing this possibility. But I don't think we can say that we're going to run it yet because the token holders haven't actually approved it. So I think we have two opportunities for getting a little bit of attention before next Wednesday, I guess, depending when you get that up there, Isaac. So, one is saying this vote is going up, and then once it's approved, assuming it is, then we can announce that and then use that as kind of the loudspeaker to say, hey, this is happening, and stay tuned because, follow the TEC Twitter account to, stay up on blah, 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 like what's happening here, etc. Right? So there's a great opportunity to get people to start following as a result.
So then I guess okay, so if we decide to, I guess, start the marketing play right at the funding proposal post, then it means the marketing has already started, and I don't think we have any content at all. So I guess it's going to be very important that this week we work a lot on the marketing and outreach. Like it must start this week, I guess, right?
I think one of the first pieces of content that we could actually kind of like out there and talk about would be actually like maybe having a thread on the actual grantees. So what have they proposed, and what we find kind of interesting, and having them tagged and things like that. That will help drive the conversation between people saying they're really, really excited to see it, and also providing if they have any links to a more detailed version of their proposal. I don't know if their proposals are public on like a Notion page or website or whatever the case is, but it will be a good way to, if we summarize each proposal, to say this is a summary of the proposal. To find out more, you can go to their Notion page, their website, or whatever the case may be, to inquire on more questions, and then from there it can kind of start more conversations and things like that.
I like it. I just don't think I agree with the timing. I think the content about grantees should be closer to the round, or when the round starts, just because we don't know if they're all going to be approved, or even if they're going to submit a grant. So like, I don't know, Cat for example, it's a T project, but they may not apply, or this is very unlikely, but they may not even be approved. So probably leave the grantee content for when we got all of them approved. I'm thinking maybe the first content should be kind of an introduction of the program with a bit of history. So like last year, we spent about 200K on grants. Now, to continue, blah, yada, 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 Gitcoin, qualitative funding, whatever. Any other opinion about marketing, or if not, we can. Yep.
Yeah, shall I go? Yeah, so I think I had this conversation with Isaac, and yeah, so we can take it this way. But I went through the document as well, and I felt, it's for someone like Gitcoin sharing, you have a lot of participants, and then for our sort of grantees, we only have 8 people. I think private outreach is something we should focus on, and along with it, we can do this rounds of tweets, which Isaac had shared me, like I think about 4 or 5 rounds of tweet, and I think that adds more of PR than marketing, is what I felt. I mean, like we go along with this files, but then we'll focus more on private outreach as well.
Also, I just thought of something. We should get in touch with Gitcoin to see if there's any sort of marketing play we can do together, which is very likely, but we actually have to ask them. Okay. Hi, Joshua.
Oh, I have.
Welcome. We are talking. Yep. Sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, just one more thing. I think it would also be really worthwhile reaching out to just some of our influencer buddies. So, like for example, Zargam, Trent, Angela, others, and say, hey, this is going to be happening over this next month, and we would really like your help in spreading the word and making this a success. So just basically queue up a bunch of like supporters who will help to spread the word.
Yeah. Sure, Joshua. No worries. If anything, just keep right on the chat, and I'll make sure to read your comments. Welcome. Okay, so let's move on to the last point for the grants program very quickly, which is, I guess, let's not spend a lot of time on here, but general sense on acceptance policies. Do we have anything in mind, like a strong nose that would automatically make not approve a grant, or there are some things like we 100% want to accept if we see them in a grant and things like that? Just get a sense of, or some ideas on how people think of accepting or denying grants. And well, I may give some examples. Like Gitcoin, for example, says if they have fundraised more than X, if they have a token that does XYZ, and also of course specific criteria to each round. So if it's infrastructure but it's not for Ethereum, then it cannot be accepted into the Ethereum infrastructure round. If it's open source software but it's not free, I'm not sure, but I don't know if it can be included into the open source software round. Things, policies like that, that may or may not apply to the projects here. So I'll open the floor now.
Just to clarify, this is not really the criteria, but more just like exception handling, right?
Yep.
Okay. I mean, I would
guess-
just
Well, I guess can be both. Like right now, it's just ideas, and then we'll see if they fit into the criteria or it's more like exceptions.
Yeah, okay. I guess what I was going to say is just philosophically, the thing that would bum me out would be if like a large corporation came in and through great marketing snagged a big pot of, big chunk of the funds. So like, like I think we have to kind of protect against like really well funded entities that can make a lot of money off of this, like coming in, just swooping in and grabbing funds. Probably unlikely, but like that would be, to me, that would be a fail.
Joseph, you wanted to say something?
Oh yeah. I was gonna say like kind of what Gideon was hinting to before with regards to if it's not, token engineering focused, if it's not, yeah, I think that's kind of one of the main things really. If it's not contributing to researching or forwarding any of our knowledge with regards to token engineering practices or whatever the case is. That's the only thing I might suggest. But for this round, because I'm not sure, because I wasn't here for previous round, so I'm not sure like what the ethos or what the methodology was with previous rounds. But if this round is, I'm assuming it's for just focused on token engineering based type projects.
Yeah, and I don't also know like things like public goods / open source requirements is something that we can bake into it. The problem is with all of that is that it's hard to verify or enforce any type of open source or consider them public goods if they're not open source. And then also it's hard to verify exactly how much funding a particular project has already received. And I think this might be kind of a growing problem in the grants world, that we're going to start to see same projects getting funding for multiple different parties, and kind of crowding out the space, and really getting more funding than they probably should within the grants world. And so I think this is something that I lean towards the notion that we should be very, very specific in the requirements that we have set for these proposals. Kind of even if we request to know if they've received funding elsewhere, within the application process would be something that'd be interesting. I'm not sure how feasible it is, but these are all kind of ideas around it. But I think this is something that we need to put a little bit more thought into, and be careful with how we do it.
Yep. Anything else?
One other thing Isaac and I were talking about the other day, I think it's important for us all to understand it. We're going to try our very best to get this all right, but I can guarantee you, that we're going to make a bunch of mistakes. I mean, Gitcoin made a bunch of mistakes in their rollout of the alpha rounds. It was kind of a travesty on some of them, right? Like some of them were really hard to get through to get Passport work. So, we're going to have, it's a new platform, we're going to have that, and then all these things about criteria and things like this, we're going to learn so much. Things are going to sneak through and probably get funded that we really did not want to get funded, but that's how we're going. So, I mean, we should try our best, for sure, but I'm just trying to set expectations. I have a feeling that we're going to learn a lot.
Yeah, something I added too as well is that what Joseph brought up earlier about projects not applying multiple times. I think they shouldn't have more than one grant. So we have to be careful with that, because then the cap, or like having more than one project into one round is probably a decently big attack vector. So we have to see how we deal with that. Because some projects, like I know, for example, for the academy, some projects, like the line when to see if a project is like separate from the academy, even if it interfaces with the academy, it's in some cases maybe a bit blurry. So we I don't know how are we going to deal with that, but we have to think about it in some way. Okay, go ahead.
No, I agree. I think that with the academy, it's a little bit different, but I think philosophically, it's kind of like, where is the impetus? Where's the will to do this grant coming from? Is it like somebody who, like the core team of a organization or a DAO saying, hey, let's, we're going to do 5 of these things? Or is it some subgroup, like a sub DAO or a working group or something that is not really centrally coordinating with the rest of the DAO? They're just like, they're really excited about their project, but they happen to be a member of a community. I think those should be able to count as their own projects. But yeah, these are all fuzzy things we're going to have to work through.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the question would be if the Token Engineering Academy walked with 80% of this grant program that we started off with through aggregate proposals. Do we consider that to be successful, or is this something that, what is the intent here? Because I think that getting more token engineering projects involved with the Token Engineering Commons and applying for grants is something that is, probably a good priority for us to have, and not just, basically just having some kind of pseudo TEA proposal that for 20K, so I think I don't know. I think this is something that we should really think about too.
Yeah, I agree. well, anyways, I'll try to work on something for next week, like something more with all of these that we have talked about, like a report or something. Then actually start working with that. Right. Anything else? If not, we can pass it to we can pass to the next topic. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Well, that was it for the advanced program. I'll pass it back to you.
Okay, thanks. That's good. That was a really good session. Thank you. So how do you guys want to handle Bear, Marathon Mind, and Joseph? Are you guys mostly talking about what you talked about today, or is this, do you want to just break it out by each of you going? How do you want to do this?
Yeah. So I think the idea would be just to have Marathon Mind and Joseph talk a little bit about what the conversation we had today, that it's basically based on some of the changes that you and Nate were proposing, Gideon, and what they think about them, their kind of like their reaction, and kind of like this change of approach that they will be taking and refocusing in these new areas, as well as the progress that they've been having throughout the month in this work. So yeah, I think maybe Marathon Mind, if you would like to start, if that sounds good.
Yeah, I'll start. So I was a little lost on the content creator role, and I think I'm being pulled back now, putting my efforts more on programs that are more on priority, like the SPA and now the grants program. So I've been also working with Nate for the reputation system. Today I shared a document for the curation service as well. Nate is working on an outline. So I'm pretty much getting aligned with what the priority and where the where TEC is moving right now. That's something we discussed over the call, and yeah, I'm good. I'll pass it over to Joseph now.
So yeah, so had a quick chat with Bear last week, and also I think that same week I had a chat with Nate as well with regards to shifting my focus, picking up more of the comms project, and also changing my focus a little bit on the SPI roles. So and then obviously having the talk with Bear today, taking on some of the responsibility, taking on responsibility of the Rita role. So with all those changes, what I've been doing is that over the past week, I've been trying to, I've been creating a marketing strategy, and within the marketing strategy, I've been talking with Marathon Mind and with Acid with regards to a content calendar, and then also I've been focusing on looking at our social media statistics. So, for example, if I if I can share my I'm going to share my screen so that it gives a bit of context of what I'm going to be proposing. I would like to do for the TEC Twitter account. Share my screen. So can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, yeah. So basically, what one of the things that I was researching and that I did think of is that we don't really have a list of our accounts, let's say with the most following. So with me on my personal Twitter account, I use this program called Audience. It's free, and with this it gives you a breakdown of the people that's like the languages that Twitter followers are speaking, where most of the traffic is coming from, and so forth. But I think for us, one of the most important metrics to kind of focus on would be like our famous followers and our most influential followers. And so with this, if we can build a list to then see who's our most famous followers and then also with our most influential followers, what can be done is that we can, interact with their accounts, and then from there we kind of do like some more of like outreach. We can get them to keep up with the latest that's happening with us, join our Twitter spaces and so forth, and things of that nature. So with that, we're able to build like a list of accounts that might be beneficial with regards to like outreach. And then also what you can do with this is you can see who's following you and then break them down into lists. So if I go to my Twitter account, this is all part of kind of knowing who your audience is. So you can create so you can create lists, for example. So you can have like a researcher list, you can have like a DAO list, or whatever the case is, and then you can kind of follow their tweets and then interact with them, and then also retweet some of their content, and then hopefully they will do the same and stuff like that. So like those are the kind of schemes and things I've been thinking of with regards to helping us with like outreach and things of that nature. Also looking at the greeter role that I was speaking to with Bear about, I definitely take on those responsibilities with regards to welcoming people when they talk in the general chat, and giving people information where they need be. Also, one thing that I noticed that we don't do at the moment is that we don't actually, especially for like the SPI and stuff, we don't actually put a link to that in our general chat, just to get people to see that we're actually to get people to know that we're actually conducting like things like Twitter Spaces on our Twitter account and things like that. And then also helping Acid and Marathon Mind with, like, let's say, statistic metrics. So over the next couple of weeks, I'll be looking at I would like to look at what's our best performing tweets, and why, and finding out what content do people gravitate the most to, whether it's educational content, whether it's things to do with like the grants project, or whether it's memes or whatever the case is, so that we can start having a bit more targeted content release and outreach with regards to our Twitter account. So that's basically what I've been doing and what I would like to plan to do in the future. Yeah.
That's really exciting, Joseph. That's really cool. I'm glad you're using that tool. What did you say? It's called Audience? Is that what it's called? Joseph? I was just asking what that tool was.
Oh, so yeah, sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, it's audience with an S. I literally just gave it all for authorization to my Twitter account, and it gives you all the statistics that you need. Also, in that comms document, I also took a print screen of it. Also gives you the statistics on when your Twitter community or your Twitter followers are most active. So for my account, I think it's like Tuesdays, Fridays, and Wednesdays between, I think, 4 and 7 p.m. GMT time is when when my Twitter community is most active. So that's the best time for me to kind of tweet anything I want to tweet, whether it's me promoting my art or whatever the case is. So I would like to kind of use audience as well to kind of generate that kind of report for the TEC Twitter account, so that we can then start tweeting around those times and see if we get more improvements with regards to like engagements, retweets, likes, and things like that.
So I have just a couple of quick high-level thoughts on all of this stuff, just because Nate and I had talked about some of this a while back, and so one thing just to begin with, I think that Twitter lists are super helpful because they're kind of a signal to those people who get added to the list that you're paying attention to them. And back in the day when I was spending a lot more time on Twitter, I was using those pretty actively, and it was very helpful. So to that point, like the reputation work that you guys are doing in building, basically a network of people who are interested in reputation, you guys should really look at like building a TEC, reputation systems list, because that will be a great way to recruit and recruit people. And then the only other thing that I just wanted to say is just kind of like a high level thing, which is really, what we're doing going forward as a community is, we basically have shrunk down to a pretty small team. And the way that we're going to scale up engagement is not by thinking of ourselves as a corporation and not by thinking of ourselves even as like a big DAO, or a giant community with lots of contributors who are getting paid. But I think it's more like a small group of people who think of themselves more as community organizers. A group who is here to, there's some of us who are doing like actual program work. But I think that, when it comes to things like SPI, and even our comms work, and the curation work, that we should really be thinking of ourselves more as community organizers. And so, Joseph, in a way, your role here, particularly as like the greeter, but also the work you're doing, the Shelling Point stuff, is in a way you're kind of like our test case for a community organizer. What does that look like to have somebody whose primary job is about like helping to serve other people, helping them to connect and be able to engage on their own in a community. So, serve themselves, I guess is a way of saying it. So we'll talk some more about this over time, like how we think about that. But, in the next proposal that we're putting out, one of the things that Bear is going to be working on with Nate and, with you, Marathon Mind, and with you, Joseph, is how do we start to scale up our engagement? And that's the point here is community organizing, like really thinking of ourselves as a platform for allowing people to serve themselves. So I'll just stop there, and like I said, we can talk some more about that later, but I'm excited to see these shifts. Great. Does anybody else have any feedback or comments for Joseph or Marathon Mind?
I think, yeah. I just want to say, I think this is a great avenue for both of you, and particularly Joseph. Like, I think that we have the specific skills for this type of, kind of community organizing aspect to it. I think the difficult part for both, like, just me and envisioning that kind of community organizing and seeing the big picture of how they all interconnect with each other to make this kind of what we would call a commons. It's kind of the difficult aspect of it, and I don't know if you can expand on that, Gideon, and that type of vision for it, because I think there's like, I have my own interpretation of kind of like this, IEEE, where we have these kind of, technical organizations like CAD, and we funnel people to those areas and create, promote the creation of new technical societies and all that method or approach. But I think, each of us are going to have our own interpretation of what that looks like, and that has a lot of influence on how we approach things. And so, like, when it comes to Joseph right now, are there anything that you suggest would be like a good kind of starting point in terms of kind of crafting that vision for the future?
What I think is that we will be defining this over the next couple months, honestly. Like, I think this is like a longer term project. But what I would say is that, when, just in general, it's like making people feel welcome. That's part of the role of the greeter, addressing them by name, interest. We don't have to solve all their problems, but making them feel heard and pinging other people in the community, and this may take a little while to just know who's who, but introducing them, that kind of stuff. But I think that the biggest thing is just philosophically from a community organizer perspective, the real goal is empowerment. Such a kind of trite word, but it's not so much about, oh, here, let us do that for you. It's more, oh, great, so excited to see that you have passion around this. Go for it, and let us know if there are things that you need in order to make this happen. But you're the one who's making it happen. It's more like that. And so the challenge is like, how do we do that in a way that doesn't just create absolute chaos with everybody like putting demands on this very small team, and doing all kinds of random stuff. So that's the challenge, I think. But I think this is a topic that deserves some more in-depth conversation, because it will be like a very important thing. It is part of the thing we're raising next.
I think the only thing I add to that I agree with what Gideon's saying, and I think to piggyback off that, I think the two main things that I think that will keep interest and keep that vision, what Gideon was saying, will probably be incentives and common interests. So if you align those two together, then I think people will be willing to incentivize to stay and have the common interest to kind of bring other people to stay whether it's them conducting research on what Uniswap is now introducing with the token mechanisms or whatever the case is. So the two main things are in incentive and interest. I think once we get the incentivized, whether it's value on I'm sharing a common interest with my fellow researcher, whether it's monetary, I'm not sure what that might be, but as long as you get incentive and common interest, I think those are the two things that will make people stay around within their own little mini communities and host their own private talks within the Discord, whether they asked us to hold a Twitter space so that they can talk about the latest research that they've done or the latest news thing that they found interesting, whether it's to do with sanctions and how that affects token engineering within a specific platform or whatever the case is.
Just one thing to add. I think the greeter role I thought was very important. I think when I came into TEC, I think it was Nate who walked me through all these meetings, and this is the date and everything. That helped me a lot, I think. And then I was able to contribute and come up. I think the greeter role, I think, is very, very important.
Okay, well, this is great. Great to see you two stepping up, and exciting to see where this goes. So if there's nothing else, we'll move on to the next topic. Do a quick countdown: 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so Bear, you want to walk us through the project funding allocations for March?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I'm gonna share screen. Well, we are getting close to the end of the month. That means also like for the time for sending compensation and payments. So I think we're still like in the process of figuring things out, the best processes of handling our budget and our compensation, and how are we tracking costs of the different projects. So I guess I will say just like bear with the process while we finalize it. But in the meantime, I think something we can do is just to do something similar on what we did last month. That it was agreeing on the distribution, on the percentage distribution across the different projects. Currently, can you guys see my screen? I hope you can.
Yep.
Okay. So as we currently have them, based on what we've been discussing throughout the month, these are the allocations. So we have the grants program, the Shilling Point initiative, and the TEA partnership with 20% each. It's important to mention that our budget for projects this month is 2,987 DAI. That's where it's being distributed across the different projects. And these are the percentages. So 20% for the review periods work, 9% for this conviction voting to TAO voting transition, 10%. For the communications project, 15%, and for other projects, 6%. That's where it's included the funding proposal that is being worked on, and the migration to Notion as well. For the stakeholder study, I don't think we were actually going to do anything for this month, so we might not as well include it on this. But that's kind of like the initial idea. So one of the things that I've also been trying to implement during this month as a way to improve this process is on coming up with a way in which we can start costing the different projects that we have. So from these, how many projects are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. From 6 of these projects, 3 of them we were able to cost them already. That's the TEA partnership, the review periods, and the TEC communications. The link for the March budget for this spreadsheet is on the agenda, so you can click on there. And then you can click on each of these links that will take you to the kind of like the overview of the project plans for each of those periods. And that's where the costing of each of these projects will be. So we can just really quickly take a look at the TEA partnership. The defined cost is 798, but based on the different like circumstances on the budget available that we have, talking with Gideon, we've agreed that this 20% reflected into 597. It was a good number for the month. For the review periods, I had planned it out for 462 for the entire work, but based on readjusting on our current needs and other priorities that are coming up, this has been defined to 252 as the costs for March. For the communications project, that's the work we've been Joseph has been leading on that. We also confirmed this in our call in the morning today, that it might not need to have any changes. So that one is at 441 for March as well. So the idea, I think ideally this approach of having certain costing defined for the month, for the outcomes of the month, will help us to be able to allocate the funds in a more accurate way, right? Because we actually will know how much each of the projects is spending or is taking. So yeah, I would like to kind of like these are the 2 questions, like opening floor to see how people think in regards with the percentages that we currently have, and also to kind of like ask Isaac and Nate in terms of the costing for their projects. How do you guys feel on that? Do you guys think we'll be able to have some sort of like idea for the costs of the month? So yeah, I think we can start with that.
Yeah, I honestly the SPI I think right now should be taking a back seat to the grant program. When it comes to the funding aspect of it, we've kind of put it into slow gear because this is going to be an ongoing thing. And I think that's how we should treat it moving forward. We have, small roadmap for the curation service, the growing of the amount of groups, the onboarding of individuals, the development of the praise going into different communities, and the inverter network are kind of all slow developing and kind of behind the scenes. And so I don't think this is something we should be putting our financial and human capital behind fully. I think having a small percentage each month towards it is worth it. But I think, right now the grants program should probably take the lion's share of the project capital that we have reserved. So that's just my personal opinion. If anybody else on the SBI team has any objections to that, I'm open to hearing that as well. But yeah, that's my view of it right now.
Hey Nate, one observation / question, I guess, a combination of the two, is whether there's some, in this maintenance mode, as it's kind of like opportunity driven project, where it's like you guys are making little pushes here and there whenever there's free time, where these other projects aren't demanding the time, but then also identifying if there are just a certain set of tasks that you all really need to be doing on a regular basis just to keep the heartbeat going,
For sure, and I think this is where it gets kind of confusing because we are very dependent on common sense makers, the inverter network, and these guys to kind of set the pace for things. And so when it comes to accomplishing tasks or getting things done in terms of how we operate and things that need to be done by this coordination team within the TEC, it's really dependent on them. And so I can see a small set of tasks that can be had with that we're setting out for the curation service immediately this month that could be allocated for, and then perhaps the proposal inverter the following month. But it's not something that I think it should require a ton of funding for. If there is more like smaller tasks or a larger push that we can make, and we have an opportunity for that, I think that identifying those and making sure those are known, I can do that, and we can review it again at the mid-month review mark and see if it needs to be adjusted at all. But right now, I think for this month we have the curation service that has this kind of outline of going back to starting from scratch and just really focusing on the user experience within the Discord and the share it channel and how we manage the database on the back end. So those are the main priorities for this month.
Okay, great. So Nate, would you have like any percentage in mind or any like amount in mind for March, or if you don't, maybe like you can let me know like in the coming days for that, on how do you see that?
Yeah, I probably have a more precise number, but I would say no more than 20% of it, just because I think that this month is we really should focus on making sure this grants protocol comes out smoothly, and we have kind of all our attention on this to make this work and get our name out there.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, if you want also, like whenever we have our call, we can talk more about this to lock this number down. And yeah, so right now it's at 20%. That's like almost $600 for the project. So yeah, we can talk this through and figure that out before the end of the month. Okay. Now for the CV to TAO voting, conviction voting to TAO voting. Any thoughts on that one?
Nate, I think that's more you, right?
Sorry about that. This is another one that I think, this is a tough one because I do think that there's one aspect of this that needs to be clarified and with SIM is that the spending limit, I think is actually a derivative of multiple parameters within the smart contract. And so this might take some investigating, but I'm hoping there's an alternative solution that just says, hey, we can redirect the smart contract that conviction voting uses to point away from the common pool into a different EOA. But that'll take some investigation with SIM on. But I honestly, outside of the proposal and making sure that we're changing the right parameter and that is protected from any type of future, attack vector, I think that is the main priority, and it shouldn't require a lot of allocation of funding. Most of the groundwork has been done for the March period. So, yeah.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. So maybe also if we could, in the coming days, just let me know more of a specific amount for that work of March that you've already done. That'd be also great. Okay.
Sounds good.
Hey Bear, one question for you. Right now, you're just asking about March, or are you also, like, if people can give you feedback on what they think it's going to be for April, is that useful or not?
Well, in terms of funds, yeah, I think we should just focus on March, right? I had another, I don't know if we'll have time, agenda item next for that specifically, like the synergies and talking a little bit more about the work in April. So if we get time, we'll probably be able to do that. Just right now, yes, I would like to try to focus more on the March, especially because of the funding issue, right, and compensation side of things. So we don't get delayed with that.
Because most of my speaking about this was regarding the upcoming month of April and not kind of a retrospective on March. With that, yeah, I can sit down and talk with you more about that as well tomorrow. But yeah,
all right,
it might be slightly higher than 20% that we've had that I have projected for April for the SBI at least, and same with the conviction voting.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we can talk more about it tomorrow then, and we can probably also bring it back to the team on next week. That it's also kind of like the last chance we have to lock this down to finalize it, right?
Yep. My apologies, but I thought we were talking about April. Sorry about that.
No, all good. I think it's also good, like starting to think about April. I think what you said, it's also important to consider. So it's still pretty good to know. Okay, so Isaac, would you like to go in terms of the grants program specifically for March? How are you seeing that?
I don't know. It's hard to say because I'm obviously biased, and I'm not sure of all the work that has been put into the other projects. Like if I'm completely honest, I'm a bit clueless about what to say. Because at least for me, it has taken pretty much all I have done this month is related to that. But then how do I compare it to other stuff? I don't know.
No, I don't think it's much about like comparing with other projects. I think it's more about like the actual work that you were doing during the month, and that basically that you're able to cost what you did or what you were planning on doing for March. And you can also use like time, right? Hours as a measure to be able to, as a way to be able to measure that.
I guess it's a bit confusing because again, or like some of the project of the grants program, I think is part of my roles. So do I double count hours, or because for example, one of the roles is about platforms, and others about projects. both of which apply to the grants program. Um, but then the grants program has taken pretty much 100% of my time. So this month, and then there's things that are related to the grants program, like having to check in with Griff and some other folks about the conviction voting situation, and having to think about some other stuff. I honestly don't know. I don't know, because I I don't want to give an answer just to give an answer, but I also don't know how to look at it, if I'm honest.
So do you think you could maybe work on this in the coming days to have at least an estimate? Because yeah, I think it's like, in terms of what you were saying about roles and projects, I think the best person to decide that it's you. I don't think you should double count, of course, but I think that's why the accountabilities for the roles are made for. Like, if you see that the work you're doing falls into those accountabilities and into those roles, then I guess it should be part of the role, right? But then if there's any other work that is particular to the grants program, then I think that you can consider that time as part of the project itself, right? So yeah, so I guess if you could just come up with some estimate in hours of the work that you've done, you have to get some record on that. That'd be pretty helpful, because otherwise then it becomes kind of like really, really hard to to figure out like compensation, right? Like you say, like we are like blank at this moment in terms of that. So I think that could bring a lot of clarity. Okay, and the last ones on other projects, kind of like the same thing. These are pretty small, but I think it's still worth to talk about. Gideon, maybe you could, I don't know if you want to do this now, if you have any idea in terms of like the on the costing for the time you've put into the funding proposal, and also same thing with you, Isaac, again in terms of the time you've invested to the migration to Notion, right? Yeah, what do you guys think?
So, I mean, the hard part is, yeah, I probably have spent way more than what's been allocated. But so right now, basically, we've got 9 hours total. I mean, I've blown through that myself. I would say, so of these migration to Notion study, the stakeholder study, that's split between you and me, Bear, and I think, mostly the time we're spending in those calls. So right, that by itself is probably, one, that's 4 hours a month. 2, so that's 6. That's a side conversation for you and me. I guess the point is we've probably gone over on this one, migration to Notion, I don't know. Let me ask you this, Isaac. How much time have you spent on migration to Notion so far?
I don't know, maybe around 3 to 5 hours, I think, in total. Yeah, probably. Maybe even a bit less, but I think 3 to 5.
Okay. So why don't we, we'll allocate this across, but I would say, allocate that to the Notion project, that like do maybe somewhere in the middle, like 4 hours. And then the other ones, basically you could use the funding proposal as the slack and just allocate whatever's left to that. But I think, cover your time for the stakeholder study. So cover like, let's do if you're okay with that, Isaac, do 4 hours for Notion, and then do 4 hours for the stakeholder study. And then, we can, do one for the other one, I guess.
Yeah, it's it's kind of a sad situation looking at those numbers and trying to fit everything there. But yeah, I think we can figure it out, and also, that's also one of the reasons why I kind of like tried to have insisted in this idea of costing by task or by outcome. I think that makes it really way easier to be able to start getting estimates than, like at the end of the month you need to go back and start counting how many hours you were putting, right? Similar to what we used to do before. I think it's a little bit harder. So if we have tasks defined prior the month or at the beginning of the month, and we assign kind of like a cost to each of those tasks or outcomes that we're going to be working, then it becomes way easier to come up with cost estimates, right? So yeah, I guess we'll keep working on this and we'll get better at this. But okay, I think we're good for now for March. I'll just then get in touch with Nate to finalize those numbers, and also wait on you, Isaac, for the grants program, that we can finalize it, present it next call on Thursday, just as a final date for then payments to be sent in the following days. Okay, yeah, I think that's kind of like, that's it for me on this. I don't know if anyone else has any questions. I mean, the other thing the reason why I wanted to have this done the soonest, especially like today, like this week, is that for then we're still missing one more step, right? Because once we have the allocated amounts for each of the projects, then it's kind of like the responsibility of the project managers to start individually allocating that funding across the different members of the project, so we might be a little bit behind again, because if we are able to lock down these project funding allocations for next week, then we'll still need a couple of more days for project managers to individually assign those funds to the people, right? So yeah, that's also kind of like the intention what I'm trying to do this with more days in advance. But again, I think this is just a matter of iteration and of nailing this process. So yeah, if anyone else has any questions, comments, I'll just open the floor for a couple of seconds, and if not, we can move forward.
I think this is good. I think, as we start to implement these new processes, it's just going to take a little bit of time for us to get into the flow of things and make sure that we're staying accountable and reporting everything accurately and on time. So thank you for all that work there.
Awesome. Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I think it's that, like slowly but surely we'll figure it out for sure. Okay, so yeah, the next thing, maybe here's a question to throw to the team. What do you think would be a good idea? I'm really interested, and I think it would be good to hear Isaac's update on the Notion migration. I think that as soon as we have that completed, that will also be a really good help for everyone to coordinate and to centralize all the work and efforts in one place. So we could do that first, or we could kind of like start talking about the synergies and this thing that we were talking about on how do we see April looking with all the projects, and if people need help specifically in specific areas, or if there's any feedback that we should go through across the different projects. So yeah, in terms of the timing that we have, I don't know what you guys think.
if nobody else has, well, let's see. So we have 12 minutes left. Maybe what we should do is with Notion, maybe have Isaac, you and Bear, have you guys had a chance to talk about that yet yourselves?
We've been talking about it with Rex as well, on kind of like the process of creating the actual account. And Isaac, he has mentioned to me that he has been working a lot on the actual building of the base, on the design. I haven't been able to look at that. That's kind of like one of the reasons why I thought it would be cool to have that update and see that progress. But yeah, that's kind of it.
Okay. Well, yeah, why don't we do that? I guess my point is it may be a little bit short on time to like get all of the synergy conversations going, because that would just be really like 2 or 3 minutes each.
Agreed. Yeah. So if you think it's good, Isaac, do you want to give that update?
Sure. Okay. Let me share my screen 1 second. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, so this is pretty much the Notion base. I think it's for the most part it's done, right? We are going to need this is an evolving thing, so it's actually never done, but whatever. Okay, so for those who may not know, Notion is divided into team spaces, and then each team space has pages and all of that. So for us right now, I've made three team spaces, but probably with time, every sort of big project or initiative, or even as they may even start looking more as working groups, they may even get their own team space to be able to accommodate their work better. And so let's go one by one. The first one is the coordination workspace, which I guess we can call the general workspace or whatever, which has first handbook. This is like a template, which should include any relevant information for the team. So um, whatever processes, good to know links, um, calendars, mission, vision, values, things like that should be put into this internal handbook, right? Then the rest of the section is more like work based, like sort of general coordination. So, for example, I'll start with projects. Here, projects. I've just made I copied the Tokyo Engineering Grants project here. So this database, in this database, we'll put projects. Each project would have, description as usual and a few tasks. I'll go into the tasks later. And what's good about Notion is that it's really complete. It has a lot of options, so we can also look at projects in a timeline. So, for example, the grants are going from I have here from March the 1st to April, to the last day of April, and same would go for other projects, and we will stack them over and see how they work and make sense of the projects in terms of time as well. And then some other views, like this view is filtered just to show the projects where I'm assigned to me, and then see all the projects, yada yada yada. Okay. Then we go into tasks. Tasks is a separate database which is linked to the project database. So again, tasks are pages. We have the description of the tasks, and they are linked to the project. We can choose some people assign, date to deliver the task, and tasks and tags that make reference to what the task is about. And again, we have multiple views. We can see them by project. We can see them by sprint. I'm going to talk about sprints in a second. We can see the backlog. We can see what's mine. We can filter them by people, for example. And then there's sprints. And the sprints would be essentially like a sprint. That's a sprint, and we could use it to bundle tasks for each month, because right now our sprint is monthly. Then if we decide to make it longer, shorter, we can accommodate sprints, but sprints just to be able to concentrate tasks into a narrow timeline of, I don't know, whatever. Um, then we have meetings, which it's a document database just to store meetings with some different templates as well, and then documents, which essentially the same as meetings, but I guess a bit broader, and can we can save here some more general docs that and keep meetings and docs separated a bit, which I think can be pretty useful. And lastly, for this space, then I made the workspace view, which is a custom view for each of us, because Notion is super modular. So here's mine. I like to see work this way, and we can pick and choose how each one of us likes to have work displayed, and just because everyone works different, so we can make a custom page for each one of us that has all the information in the other places linked. Um, this is this one. I'll go through all of them before opening up, just because of time. Then communications. This is a database that Laser has been using just to schedule posts and all of that. Pretty basic. You have status, you have who made it, who reviewed it, date, the content tag, etc., etc. And finally, there's a public space where we can have things about the SPI, or things or like a document center. So we can essentially use this as Gitbook or something like that. You just have everything concentrated in a single platform instead of have multiple ones. And yeah, I guess with time, the grants program will probably also have its own space to host information and things like that. But this is pretty much it for now. Figure out the price schema, because Notion is different than Clarity, obviously, and we have to see what makes the most sense for us to be able to accommodate everyone, but not pay for like it's $10 per account, and we are like 6 people here, so that be $60. And if there's any way we can lower that amount, so be it. So that's the only thing we have to look for before, I guess, jumping over to Notion. So now, if there's any question, or if there's anything missing, whatever, just please let me know.
Do they have different notions of users? Like, are there different levels of usage? Or is it just like either you're a user and you pay 10 or you're not?
Yeah, they have different levels. I asked Patty how they use it on the academy, and they they are just Patty and Angela are like owners or of members of the base, and then they all the other contributors and all of that are in a different level, but I still have to properly look into it.
Yeah, is there? I don't know if you mentioned this. I kind of can't see the screen for it right now, but is there a place for like comms and Twitter, like inputs and stuff like that, to where we can manage our communications as well?
Yeah, there's a small database here. We can make another or make more things, but right now this is what we have.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I think it's super cool. I think this is going to really, really make a difference and will help us a lot. So for the public one, like the website, could you? How does it work? Is it like the ones that is actually like a website for our base, or what do you mean?
Well,
It's public.
I'll share. Let me change the screen. I'll share a few examples. Okay. So one second, I'll open them. Change. Okay. Can you see it?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So,
Yeah.
so for example, this is a public page that is shared with everyone, and this is for an event I made with my local community, and people can just come here and learn stuff or interact with the page and read whatever it is. And also, Order Space uses Notion for the documents. So if you need to troubleshoot anything with their product, you just go to their page, which is docs.orderspace.xyz, and you can, read whatever you need. And this is all based in Notion, so we can do the same. And that's what I meant. Just for the sake of keeping it separate, that's why I made the sort of public separate space to have everything that's going to be public and published in the public. Because by default, all the other pages are access only.
Okay. Yeah. That's what I thought. Yeah. That's really cool. Thank you, guys.
Yep. Yep. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say we gotta wrap up. We've got 1 minute.
Yeah.
Any last comments, Isaac, on this?
Not from my side. I guess I'll work with you, Gideon, and Bear just to try to figure out if it makes sense for us, like the price scheme. And if it makes, then I guess we can make the switch as soon as we like.
Cool. All right. Well, hey, thank you. Thanks for doing this, Isaac. It's great. It's a great job. You pulled that together really nicely. Okay, everybody. Well, that's it for the call today. Everybody have a good Friday and good weekend, and we'll see you next week.
Same. Thanks. Take care, everyone.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.